is my view right now out of my window.
Hey, boo, hey. As you can see in that clip, it's nighttime here. I have all my lights on right now, so that's why it's so bright. But it's actually nighttime outside, and I'm winding down because I have an early day tomorrow. But look, I met up with my Connect group today from church, right? This is them. Love them. They're amazing. All across, they're from all different types of countries. And I call us the United Nations. And we celebrated 2 of our members' birthdays, which was so nice. Had some amazing cake. I forget what kind, but it was great. But what we talked about today was talking about when people correct you and how you respond to it, right? And when you have to correct people and discipline and obedience and all that stuff. And so even if you aren't a Jesus follower, which is fine, this is still stuff that comes up in real life, right? So whether you work at a job where you have bosses who critique you or clients who critique you, or if like one of our members, your teacher and your student critiques you, it's like, how do you handle those situations, right? And so everyone went around and they shared like some of the things that they do and how they may have not been the best or receptive about being corrected in the past. And, you know, some shared how they have grown in that area and now they're, you know, doing much better. And others are like, okay, I want to work on this area, because part of it becomes pride, right? Especially when you have people who are close to you and they're looking out for your best interests and they give you some feedback about things you may be doing or decisions you've made. It's easy to, you know, quickly dismiss people like, you don't know my life. That's what I like to say. You don't know my life. It's easy to dismiss them, or it's easy to judge, which I have been guilty of as well. Like, well, your life isn't all perfect. You have this, and this going on. So how you going to tell me about this thing? Like, you know, and I get that. Nobody's perfect, right? And I think it doesn't mean that you can't learn from people. And one of the things that I like to do when people give me feedback or correction, however you want to call it, number one, I look at, okay, am I receiving this same feedback from multiple people? Because that's definitely, if I'm receiving the same type of feedback from individual parties who don't know each other, then I'm like, okay, this is probably something I need to look at. Like if people are telling me, well, you're rude, you know, if multiple people have told me I'm rude, like if somebody's at a hotel has told me I'm rude, and then one of my coworkers has told me I'm rude, and then one of my family members has told me I'm rude, and none of these people know each other, and 3 different instances someone has told me I'm rude, then I'm like, okay, how am I really rude? Like, let me take a look at this, and how am I presenting myself to people? You know, or maybe it's like, okay, I am rude, and that's just gonna be what it is, because that's always a choice, right? But one of the things I found is like, in this world, we're dealing with other people, and when you deal with other people, you have to consider other people. That's how the world works. And so one of the other things is, let's say one person came to you and said, oh, I feel this, and this, you know, how you're doing this thing or this decision you made. I like to ask myself, okay, is this something that's really true, or is this person projecting that onto me, right? So for example, if I have people in the past who told me like, oh, you're intimidating. And I'm like, what? How am I intimidating? Like, I don't think, or no, this is the one I've had. I'm like, what? I've had people tell me, you think you're better than me. And I have to, instead of getting offended, right? And this is part of the growth part. No matter what you believe in, if you're a human, part of growing is like being able to receive what people say, like listen to what people say and not get offended, right? And then making the decision, okay, is this something that really applies to me, or is this something that they're just projecting on me? So for instance, if someone tells me that I think I'm better than them, it's like, okay, do I feel like I'm better than them? No, that's not the truth. You know, then maybe that's their insecurity and they're projecting it onto me. They think I'm better than them. And so then they want to come to me and say, I think I'm better than them. And that's not the case at all. And I've had that happen to me before. And I'm just like, what? I'm over here minding my own business. How do I think I'm better than you? Like, what are you talking about? Well, because you went to college and you got a car and you did this. And I'm like, what? This is my 20s. I'm like, what? I'm literally over here living my life. And by the way, I'm drowning. I was drowning in my 20s. I went out and bought a 3-unit apartment building way above my head for my first property. Like, girl, what are you doing? Got way on my head, got a lease. I'm living large. I was drowning. And people were like, you think you're better than me. Oh, that's not the case at all. I'm over here trying to not drown. But that's just an example of someone's own insecurity. And I'm sure if I thought about it, I can't think of anything right now, but I'm sure if I thought about it, there's been instances where I've done that. I have my own insecurities and I project that onto someone else. So that happens, And so when someone comes to you and they're like, yeah, well, you're like this, and this, or you did this, and this, first thing I do is stop and I'm like, okay, is that the truth? Is that really what I did? Or is that the intention I had behind it? Or is that really what I feel? And then I'm like, okay, if it's yes, then it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to work on this. If I really am, not inconsiderate of other people or something like that, okay, yeah, that's the truth. So how do I work on being more considerate? But if it's like, no, that's a projection onto me, then it's like, no, I don't receive that. And that's important to think about who you're receiving things from, because if you literally took in all the feedback from everybody, then you would know who you are as a person, right? Because everybody always has an opinion on what someone else is doing. Like, oh, I don't like the way you tie your shoes, or oh, I don't like the way that you run our meetings, or oh, I don't like the way. Everybody has an opinion about something. So you can't just take everybody's feedback. But sometimes there are people, especially if they're people who are close to you, and if you have a good relationship with them, and there's somebody who really knows what's going on in your life, not just a surface level relationship, but somebody's close to you, usually a family member or a good friend, and they are really invested in your life, and vice versa, then you may be more receptive to hear from them than a stranger, because this person actually knows you, and it's usually coming from love. But we all have our own things, And so anyway, it was a really, really good conversation, and just kind of sorting that stuff out. What also came up was, how do you correct or even give feedback to elders, especially when you're coming from a culture where elders are just like always right. Even when they're wrong, they're always right. And that's a hard one to deal with, right? Because I remember when I was a kid, I remember so tough hearing all the time, stay out of grown folks' business. I do what I want. I'm grown, right? All the time. I would hear that. And it's just like, I would point out something to my mom and I'm like, Mom, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, we need to pay the bills on time, or we need to do whatever. And it's just like, stay out of grown folks' business. And I'm like, okay. And so I've had revelations about things that were going on. We had times where we struggled, and my mom was doing the best she could to survive. Thank you, Mom. Shout out to Mom. But also, it's like, when you're an adult who doesn't want to hear the feedback or correction or criticism, and I know each level of that word has a different heaviness to it, right? Like feedback, because we can give feedback about a movie, we can give feedback about anything. So feedback, I feel like, is very not charged. It doesn't have a lot of emotional charge with it. But then when you get into like correction, or when you get into criticism, those words just in of themselves are a lot more emotionally charged. And it's really easy to get offended when you start getting into thinking of correction and criticism. But I'll just say feedback. Those three things, I know they may be different, but I'm just kind of using them interchangeably right now. But when you get into getting feedback as an adult from someone who may be younger than you, from someone who may be a subordinate of you at work, from someone who may not have as much experience as you, it's really easy to dismiss them. But at the same time, and realization I had today, it's like, no, we can learn from anyone if we allow ourselves to, right? And so sometimes people who are more inexperienced, or who are younger than you, or who are not as senior as you in your job, they have good ideas. They have new ways of doing things. They see things you don't see, and they have just a different perspective. And that's awesome. And it's needed. It's needed in this world. And as I find myself getting up there in years, and I'm proud of my years, I want to be more open to looking at things from other people's perspectives, right? I don't want to just, if I'm doing something that takes 25 steps and someone can do it in 15 steps, show me, help me make it easier. But I think it's definitely a difference when someone comes at you, or how people come at you with their feedback, right? Are they coming at you harshly, accusatory, and really attacking you, right, in your character, versus, you know, coming to you with love or at least kindness, and more so pointing out something you've done. So like separating, like, this is what I saw you do, or this is the thing you did, versus this is who you are, right? That makes a big difference. And but yeah, I'm rambling. It was just a good conversation today, and I was like, oh, very, very interesting. And just learning more about how to, you know, have better conversations with people, better relationships with people, especially when it comes to our loved ones and our family members, because those, as much as we love the family, they really know how to push your buttons, right? And so I'm always up for knowing how to better deal with that. And just all areas of life, you know, when you deal with your church folks, when you deal with your work folks, when you deal with your friends, especially older friends, like friends you've had for a long time, this type of wisdom is needed for sure. So if you tell me, how do you deal with correction or criticism, feedback from people that you know, that you don't know? How do you give? Like, do you have a strategy for how you give feedback, criticism, correction to other people? What's your thoughts around this topic? Let me know. I would love to hear it for sure. All right. I'll talk to you later, boo. Ciao.